Got to get into some football. And Aaron Rodgers, the latest on the Green Bay Packers saga. Of course, it reported this week that he turned down a very lucrative contract extension to stay with Green Bay that would have tied him to the Packers for the foreseeable future. And we had some talk a couple weeks ago about what was the feud really about. Is it about the money, the respect? Can we get inside Aaron Rodgers' head here a little bit and get an understanding of what is his thought process? And very interesting to me anyway that it seems as though it's really not about the money or the security, but really about a broken trust between Rodgers and the front office, because it seems as though his relationship with Matt LaFleur has been very good, but the front office and their willingness to do business with Rodgers has not come to fruition. And I do think it is, at least at this point, maybe the phrasing of will he play in another uniform a bit premature, but will he play in a Packers uniform, I think, is a more realistic question, because is this a guy who would think about not playing this year? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I think is hard for me to imagine, is that I can see it not being about the money. I can see it being about the trust and loyalty within the organization. I understand that and I get that. But the problem, I think, for Aaron Rodgers is that he doesn't really have many cards to play here. Like, he's kind of at the mercy of what his organization wants to do. And so I think for him, it's really about, does he want to play football right now? Because I think that's kind of the options that he's looking at here. He either sits out this season. Training camp, I think, starts soon next week. And so he either doesn't go and he sits out entirely, or he sucks it up and he goes to the Packers, And so I think really what's on the line for him is playing football, because I don't really see a situation where the Packers are going to trade him. They haven't said so yet. They don't plan on doing that whatsoever. So if he's just going to sit, then that's going to be up to him, they're not going to drag him to practice. They can't make him come. And so if he chooses not to, then it's him who doesn't get to play football this season, and it's him kind of who ends up screwed. So he may not, the money doesn't seem like it really means anything to him. It really just seems to be the culture and the loyalty. And that's not changing anytime soon. And it doesn't seem like the Packers are interested in letting him go anytime soon.
No, not at all. This seems to me clearly like a grown man who does not want to be there at all. Like, you're telling me that he's declining one of the biggest contracts in NFL history to not play for Green Bay even a little bit. It just, I think I agree with you, Kayla. I think he just doesn't want to play football anymore. I think he really he may have just lost his edge for it. You see him all the time in media nowadays doing the match with Brady. He's engaged to Shailene Woodley now. It seems like he's living more like a celebrity.
Jeopardy. We can't forget that Chase.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, how could I forget? But no, it seems like he just doesn't. If I had to think about it, I just think he doesn't want to be a quarterback of the Green Bay Packers anymore, or just even a quarterback in general. His relationship with LaFleur has been very up and down since LaFleur got hired. I mean, it has gotten better, but that's only because it made actually kind of a decent run. And then, the Jordan Love thing is waiting in the midst, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. But if he sits out, I think he's retiring. I don't see any team making a play for him at his age. I think he still has a good couple of years left in him, but I don't see any other team making a play for him when there's quarterbacks aplenty in next year's draft and draft after that and the draft after that.
I don't know that I would be that cavalier in saying that there wouldn't be a market for him. I mean, he's Aaron Rodgers, and I understand that there are quarterbacks that are available, but those guys aren't Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's a guy who just won the MVP and had as good a season as we've seen out of a quarterback in a long time. To me, the roadblock is, again, the contract, because when you break down the numbers, he is owed, let's see here, it's a base salary of just under $15 million, but the important number to pay attention to here is the dead cap hit, because that's what Green Bay is on the hook for, very limited salary cap against their cap should he not be on their roster. This year, it's $37 million. With the environment in the NFL, with the way that cap situations are going, there is no way that the Green Bay Packers can afford to say we can pay Aaron Rodgers $37 million against our cap to not play for us. Now, they are likely better off allowing him to just stay on the roster and remain there and just not play because his cap hit is a little bit lower. It would save them about $2 million or so to let him literally just be inactive for every game and just chill out and suit up Jordan Love for every game that you play this fall. So the only way that Aaron Rodgers gets moved, and this is similar to a Carson Wentz situation with the contract and sending him to the Colts, what the Eagles were willing to do was work with him on restructuring the contract to make it one that the Colts could take on. That's not going to happen with Green Bay. They are a team that has their feet firmly dug in the sand and are saying, no, we're going to keep you, Aaron, and you're going to stay here. And to me, that's why I rephrased some of that question, at least coming into this segment, because I don't know that it's about, will he play in another uniform? Because I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think is more likely or could happen is that he would somehow sit out this season. However, I think it's difficult for him to do that too because he's 38 years old and he had a great year and he's a good athlete. And I think quarterbacks and Tom Brady have shown you that you can play for a little while, but at the same time, you're still 38, 39 years old. And that's not a spot where when you feel like you are at the top of your game, you want to say, I'm going to take a year off. That's a tough spot for him to be in. So as much as has been made about this whole situation, and I think that it is legitimate, and I do not believe that he wants to play for Green Bay anymore. I think his hand is going to be forced because I don't think he's in a spot where at 38 years old, he'll be happy saying, yeah, I just won't play this year.
I agree totally with that, Nick. I think that this ends poorly for Aaron Rodgers. I don't see it going in his favor whatsoever because, like you said, I think he's stuck. It feels like a game of chicken to me, and it's like, who's going to bulk first? And I think that he's going to be the one who ends up screwed here because the Packers organization they're not backing down whatsoever. So I think that if he wants to play football, which like you said, he probably does, he's a competitor. I can't imagine that he is just going to walk away from it just totally okay with that, acting like nothing has happened and like he didn't have a really great season last year. And I think that it's going to be impossible. It's going to be okay, not maybe impossible, but incredibly challenging for him to sit on the bench of the Packers this entire season and watch Jordan Love take a spot. I don't think that he's going to be able to handle that. And I think that the competitor inside of him is going to have to come out. And that's why I think he's going to end up playing just for the Packers, because I think that his pride, and while because it's not about money, right? So it's got to be about character, loyalty, pride. I think that it's going to take such a massive hit if he just sits there and watches his team where they're not letting him go. So if they're not letting him go, he's either got to run with them or sit against them. You know what I mean? I think that he has no choice really but to go with what the Packers want.
Not going against, but kind of piggybacking what you said about pride. I mean, think about people who are on the opposite side of the Aaron Rodgers hype train. I personally am a big fan of him as a quarterback. He only has one ring. So there's probably a part of him somewhere out there that thinks to himself, I only have a couple more years left. You said he's a true competitor. Why not run it? I think it has something to do with loyalty. It probably has a lot to do with Jordan Love. So I kind of changed my tune a little bit. I think he really does want to play football, but he's kind of in a bind, but it's a self-imposed bind. Green Bay's given him nothing but success and love. And yeah, they only had one ring, but then again, he's never had a first round talent besides Devontae Adams, but still, I think he'll play genuinely.
I don't disagree, but yeah, I'm a little down on Aaron Rodgers with this whole situation in that I don't love the way he's handled it, to tell you the truth. And there are some who think that he is at the liberty of the respect of the organization that he plays for, and there is some legitimacy to that. I'll buy that in that he is owed some of that respect that should be given to a quarterback of his caliber. But the idea that Green Bay has held him back every step of the way, I just don't believe is true. And he plays in a small market, yes. The Green Bay is never going to go out and spend a ridiculous amount of money in free agency. But they have invested in their roster. They're a team that doesn't have a lot of salary cap space left. They're not a team that's saying we're going to try and budget our money to save 20% of the salary cap or something like that. They're a team that is up against the cap with Aaron Rodgers almost every year. They've paid Aaron Rodgers. They've shown they're willing to pay him even further into the future and to say, yeah, we probably shouldn't have drafted Jordan Love, or we think that you can now play further into your career than we might have anticipated when we made that pick. But the idea that Green Bay has done wrong by Aaron Rodgers every step of the way, I don't think is true. He's got a top 5, if not top 2, if not top 1 wide receiver in Davante Adams. Are we supposed to care that he was drafted in the second round? I mean, yeah, he wasn't drafted in the first round. That's what everyone likes to latch onto. They haven't drafted a first-round skill position player since he's been there. Davante Adams makes it so you don't have to draft another wide receiver. They've got Aaron Jones, a guy who is a top-flight running back. He was just up for free agency, and they paid him. So I understand that it hasn't been perfect, but it's the NFL. Very few things are. It's difficult to be perfect. Vince Lombardi said that. So I'm just not with Aaron Rodgers being this victim here in that, he's got nowhere else to turn. Yeah, they drafted Jordan Love. And you know what? You played so well that it doesn't matter anymore. They're willing to cut ties with Jordan Love and say, you're our guy for the foreseeable future. We'll roll with you until you're 43 years old. And the fact that he turns that down, that's on him as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know what he wants. I don't know what he's looking for, but this is a situation that, for me, I think makes him look bad. I mean, does anyone sit here and talk about how poorly the Packers are run? Maybe there's some of that, but I think this is on Aaron Rodgers in the way that he's handled the situation, and I don't think it's in a good way.
I agree, and I think that the trend that we've really seen, like in this past football season, more than I think I've ever realized before, is quarterbacks kind of feeling like they are owed something by their organizations. Like we saw with like Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, and they sort of all feel like they have this entitlement to the front office. And on the one hand, I feel like that is sort of true, and that obviously your quarterback is your star person and that they're somebody who's a leader on your team and you should like think of them. But ultimately, they're not the front office. So I feel like their decisions are separate from one another, although they obviously affect each other. I don't know how entitled a quarterback can be to be upset about decisions that front office makes. Unfortunately, like as the way football works and as the way all sports work, you are just an employee on their team. Like you're a paid employee. You are not the boss. And so as the employee, you got to go with what your boss tells you to do. And I think that people like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers have been with a company or whatever, a team so long that they feel like they get to make the decisions. And unfortunately, it's just not how it works for them. And it's suddenly like this season, it was a surprise. Surprise, they don't have all the power. And it was like confusing to all of them. And now it's like blown up so much in the media and they're using it to their advantage to kind of try to garner sympathy. And I think you're right. I don't really have sympathy for Aaron Rodgers. So what? He sits out. He's still making millions on millions of dollars. You know what I mean? So for me personally, I agree that I think that these quarterbacks, especially in this recent season, are playing up this victim card and making it seem like they are being so mistreated when I know for a fact they are not, and they've got massive wallets to prove it. So I feel like I don't have a lot of sympathy for them.
No, I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. It's like, oh, geez, I have all these millions of dollars for my State Farm commercials. Oh, geez, I have all these endorsements. Oh, geez, I hang out with Miles Teller in Hawaii with my girlfriend. Like, it's just, I have no sympathy for him. Like, he's really kind of shown who he was. And there's always been rumors and like stuff about Aaron Rodgers, like locker room presence. He's been very cold, not really the best leader. He kind of leads with his play, but not who he is. And it kind of shows that. Like, he just, like you said, especially with the recent quarterback trends of entitlement, Aaron Rodgers slowly is kind of like taking the cake of one of the more entitled quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, I think you can argue because they never really gave him a lot of help and this and that, but you can also do that with Aaron Rodgers. So I don't feel bad for him. He's kind of dug himself into this hole and he'll unfortunately probably remain there for a while. So
I'll finish up with this before we end on this topic. I do understand why certain quarterbacks have complained in the ways that they have. And Deshaun Watson is the one that comes to mind, and we'll save all the other stuff that has gone on with him for another day. But just from the football side and perspective of things, the disaster that has been their front office with the way that they operated in trading away the first round picks and being a team that was as badly built as the Houston Texans were this year. I understand why Deshaun Watson, despite the millions of dollars, wants to get out of there, because they're letting a pastor run their football operation, and it just does not seem to be married to any rhyme or reason. And there are some organizations that, although Seattle, for example, has won a lot, they have really struggled to protect Russell Wilson. Now, I think that his complaints are a little overblown too, because he's had a lot of help, at least from a skill position standpoint, with wide receivers. But they have really struggled to protect him. They have not had much of a running game since he has been there. So those two things are noted. Aaron Rodgers has had almost everything at his disposal. Number one wide receiver, bona fide stud in Devontae Adams, a top 5, top 10 running back in Aaron Jones, and an offensive line that has been really good. They have done an excellent job of building to protect Aaron Rodgers over the last 5 years or so. And to me, at that level, you go 4-12 routinely and you have no future in sight. Okay, I understand why Deshaun Watson makes the play that he does. But you were just in the NFC Championship game back-to-back years and went 13-3. And by the way, one of the reasons you weren't in the Super Bowl was because of some difficult decisions in the second half that I know everyone points to the field goal, but there was some not so great play from Aaron Rodgers there too. And that game was messy for a time, but I'm at a point with Aaron Rodgers where I would say you might want to relax. I don't want to turn that on him, but you might want to relax a little bit, because it's a tough play to make. So we got to go to break.